Hey everyone, and welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today we're going to take a look at Peloton, ticker symbol PTON.
Yeah, that's right. The at-home fitness company that, pretty much everyone was using during those lockdowns. And with their second quarter 2025 earnings coming out on February 6th, there's a lot of people kind of wondering what's going to happen with the stock.
Yeah, for sure. There is a lot to consider. I mean, over the past year, their stock has gone up 73%.
Yeah.
But recently, like right before these earnings come out, it dipped down 5%.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely a sign that some investors are not really sure what to expect from these next results.
Right, exactly. So let's go back a bit. What happened in Q1 2025?
Well, I mean, their earnings per share missed estimates. It came in at negative $0.16, and analysts were predicting negative $0.15.
So not a great start.
True, but they did beat revenue expectations. They brought in $586 million, which was $13 million more than analysts thought they would.
Okay, so it's kind of a mixed bag then.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And for Q2 2025, analysts are predicting an EPS of negative 0.20 cents and revenue of $653.28 million.
Okay, so that revenue projection at 12% decline year over year, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And it does kind of make you wonder if Peloton can keep growing the way they were.
So what's Peloton doing to, like, change things? They're not just giving up, right?
Oh, no, definitely not. They've been cutting costs and trying to improve their bottom line.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and they have a new CEO now, Peter Stern. He used to work at Ford and Apple.
Wow, those are some big companies. Seems like they're serious about, changing things.
Yeah, I think so. He seems pretty focused on getting the company back on track.
So, okay, Peloton's making moves, but what are the analysts saying about all this?
Well, it's kind of mixed. 16 out of 19 analysts rate it as a hold right now, and only 3 are saying buy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the average price target they're giving is $7.10, which is lower than where Peloton is trading right now at about $7.43.
Interesting. But didn't Bank of America recently upgrade them to a buy?
They did, yeah. They set a target of $9. Seems like they're more positive about things.
Okay, so what are, like, the opportunities and the risks for Peloton?
Well, I mean, on the positive side, the Q2 results could be better than expected. Maybe their losses are smaller than we think, or maybe they got way more subscribers. If that happens, the stock could go up to like $9 to $11.
That would do great.
Right. But, their revenues are declining, and there's a lot of competition out there in the fitness market, so there's definitely still risk.
Has there been any news that might affect how the stock's doing?
Definitely. The fact that the Q2 reports coming out on February 6th caused trading to drop 30% on February 3rd, I think investors are a little nervous.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus, there was some insider selling. Karen Boone, she's a director at Peloton, sold 17,259 shares at $7.32 back on January 2nd. So, sometimes that can make investors worry.
Okay, so we've talked fundamentals, we've talked analyst opinions, we've talked recent news. What about, like, the stock chart itself? What does that look like?
Well, right now it's trading at $7.43, down 4.3% from the previous close of $7.75.
Oh.
And if you look at the moving averages, the 50 days at $9.12, that might be a point where it's hard for the stock to break through.
A resistance level, right?
Exactly. And the 200-day moving average is at $6.53. That could be a support level where people start buying again.
Okay, so we've got these key levels to watch. What about volume?
Well, the midday volume on February 3rd was 7.27 million shares, lower than the previous day's 10.37 million. So maybe some people are just waiting to see what happens with these earnings.
Makes sense. Okay, so considering everything, all these different factors, what's your, like, overall take on Peloton? What should investors do?
Well, based on what we're seeing, the revenue going down, the competition, that resistance level at $9.12, I'd say hold on to PTON for now.
So be cautious, but not sell.
Right. But, some analysts are saying it could go up to $11. And the options market is predicting a pretty big swing, like 18.6% after the earnings come out.
Wow, that's a lot. So things could change quickly.
Yeah, definitely. This could be an interesting couple weeks for Peloton, that's for sure.
I think you're right about that. Peloton's future really depends on these Q2 earnings and what they say about their plans going forward.
Yeah.
It'll be fascinating to see how this all plays out.
Absolutely. Keep an eye on what they say about their plans. It's going to be interesting.
So we've talked about a lot with Peloton, the financials, what the analysts are saying, even looking at the charts. But I think we should also step back for a second and think about the bigger picture here, right?
Yeah.
Like, where does Peloton fit in with everything going on in the fitness world?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't really look at a company without thinking about the whole industry, right? You got to understand what's happening, who they're competing with, what people want.
Right, exactly. It's like trying to understand a fish just by looking at the water in its tank. You got to know about the currents and all the other fish, the whole ecosystem.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. And when you look at Peloton that way, it's really interesting to see how their story kind of reflects what's been going on in the whole fitness industry.
Yeah, the pandemic really changed things for a lot of businesses, right?
Yeah.
And fitness was one of them for sure. It really pushed people towards working out at home and using apps and stuff.
Big time. And Peloton was in the perfect spot to take advantage of that. They were like the company everyone was talking about.
Yeah, if you were working out at home, you were probably on a Peloton.
Pretty much. But things change. And it's a lot harder to keep that momentum going now that the pandemic's over.
Right. People are going back to the gym,
Yeah.
trying different apps, and there's like way more competition now.
Exactly. It's not just about stationary bikes anymore. It's about the whole experience.
Yep.
Community, different kinds of workouts, how much it costs. It's a whole package.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's why it's so important to think about who they're competing with, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's not just other apps.
Right. They're going up against traditional gyms too, and those gyms are getting better with their online stuff, offering classes and things like that.
Yeah, like a lot of gyms have their own apps now, right?
Exactly. So Peloton's got to be really smart about what they do next, like all that cost cutting and the new CEO, it's all part of that.
Yeah, they've got to figure out how to stand out,
Hmm.
offer something special that makes people want to pay a little more for Peloton, especially with so many other choices out there.
Exactly. And that's why these Q2 earnings are so important. This is their chance to show everyone that they get it, that they're going to do what it takes to keep being successful.
Right, that they're not just reacting to things,
Mm-hmm.
but actually making changes and coming up with new ideas.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also important to remember that uh, Peloton's story isn't just about fitness, right? It's about how people are changing how they live their lives, especially after the pandemic.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? Like they really benefited from people wanting to do everything online,
Yeah.
but now they're dealing with people having way more choices than ever before.
Totally. It's like they caught the first wave and now they got to figure out how to ride the next one. And that one could be even bigger and harder to predict.
Right. The pandemic made people try new things, like shopping online, working from home, exercising online. And now that people know they can do those things, I don't think they're going to stop.
Yeah. People like the convenience and flexibility. So Peloton, and really any company like them, has to figure out how to build a business that works in this new world.
It's like a whole new set of rules, right?
Yeah.
And they have to be really strategic about how they play the game.
Right. For Peloton, that means using what they're good at, their brand, their community, their workouts, and fixing what's not working so well, like maybe their price, and relying so much on selling those bikes.
Yeah, it's about keeping what makes them Peloton, but also changing with the times.
Exactly. And a lot of companies are struggling with that, not just in fitness.
So Peloton's story, all the ups and downs, it's really useful for investors to pay attention to
Hmm.
because it shows you what's happening in the market overall.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Peloton is like a test case. They were doing great during the pandemic, and now they got to figure out how to keep growing when things are more competitive.
Right, exactly. So it's a lesson for anyone who's investing.
Yeah, you got to pay attention to those big trends, how people are changing, how the market's changing. Those are the things that really matter.
Okay, so we've talked about the competition, how people are changing, and what that means for the market as a whole. What else should investors be thinking about with Peloton specifically?
Well, one thing people don't always think about is the management, the people running the company.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how great your product is if you don't have the right people making decisions, right?
Exactly. And that's why it's a big deal that they got Peter Stern as CEO. He's got a lot of experience from those big companies, Ford and Apple. They're known for being innovative, and changing with the times.
Yeah, it seems like he knows what he's doing,
Yeah.
and he's got the skills to help Peloton get through this.
That's what everyone's hoping, yeah. And investors are going to be listening really carefully to what he says during the earnings call. They want to know what his plans are for the future.
Yeah, what's he going to do about new products, marketing, keeping costs down, all that stuff?
Exactly. And even more than that, they want to know if he understands what's happening out there, the competition, the rules, all the things that could affect Peloton down the line.
Right. It's not just about the numbers. It's about the story behind them, the strategy, the vision, the leadership. All those things are going to decide whether Peloton can get back to being, the top dog in fitness.
Exactly. That's a really important lesson for any investor, right? Don't just look at the numbers, dig a little deeper. Understand the story, the people, the forces that are shaping the companies you're investing in.
Okay, so we've looked at Peloton from a lot of different angles today. But before we move on, I think it's important to remember that the market, it's unpredictable, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Nobody can see the future, and even the experts get things wrong sometimes.
Right. So we've tried to give a complete picture of Peloton right now, but it's super important to be careful with any investment, and not get too carried away.
Definitely. Do your research, think about how much risk you're comfortable with, and don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Great advice. Investing is a long game, not a quick win. Don't get caught up in the day-to-day ups and downs.
Focus on the fundamentals, those long-term trends, and the companies that are building something that's going to last.
Yeah. And if you do that, you'll be in good shape to reach your financial goals.
Absolutely.
As we've been talking about Peloton, I keep thinking about how things change, like how one company can just shake up a whole industry.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Peloton did that, right? They changed how people work out.
Exactly. They brought that fancy studio feel right into people's homes.
Right. It wasn't just about the bike, it was a whole experience.
And for a while, it seemed like they had it all figured out. But like we've been saying, things change, and sometimes it comes back around.
Oh, yeah. Peloton changed the fitness game, but now they got to deal with new technology, new competition, people wanting different things. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's like a constant race, right?
Yeah,
Companies trying to stay ahead of each other, always trying to guess what's coming next.
that's exactly what it is. And it's only getting faster.
Yeah.
That makes it tough for companies to keep up.
So the big question for Peloton is, can they change with the times? Can they reinvent themselves, come up with new ideas, and stay relevant?
Yeah, that's what everyone wants to know. And that's what investors are going to be watching for. Trying to figure out if Peloton's got a future.
Because at the end of the day, investing is about betting on what's going to happen down the road.
Exactly. It's about finding those companies that can grow and be successful over time.
And that's what makes Peloton so interesting right now. They've got big challenges, but they've also got some real opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. They've got a big following, great workouts, but they also have to deal with all that competition, the prices, and, they got to gear them up with new stuff.
It's like they're at a crossroads, right? The choices they make are going to determine where they end up.
Yeah, and their decisions are going to affect not just them, but maybe the whole fitness industry. It's a big deal.
It reminds you that investing is about more than just numbers on a page. You got to understand the whole story, the people, the things that make a business work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we talked about a lot with Peloton today, but I think the biggest takeaway is to pay attention to those big trends, the competition, and how people are changing the way they live.
Yeah, good point. And don't forget about leadership. Look for companies with strong management, people who can adapt and come up with new ideas.
Right. And always remember, there's risk in investing. You can't know for sure what's going to happen.
Do your research, know how much risk you're okay with, and don't put in more than you can afford to lose. That's the key.
Well said. That's our take on Peloton, a company facing some big decisions.
Yeah, it's been a great discussion.
If you liked our show today, please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave us a comment. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, happy investing, everyone.